Sell my son your land or I will call the police. My now passed on next door neighbor was a terrible busybody who felt it was her God-given right to tell everyone in our street what they could and couldn't do, from where they parked their cars to what flowers they could grow. She had to know everyone's business and would harass people until she got answers, even going as far as stalking, but that is for other stories. If she didn't get her own way, she would spread the most evil gossip. Her adult children, a son and daughter, were both greedy and deeply entitled, believing that because the majority of the street were either social housing or rented properties, they were better than everyone else, and if they didn't get what they wanted, then mother would sort it out. The son owns 2 other properties near the end of the street which he rents out. At the very end of the same street is another house with a plot of land right next to it. The owners of that house and land built a garage that they use for work, rebuilding old cars and bikes. The business is at least 30 years old, handed down from father to son. It's very small, so they can only work on one vehicle at a time, but due to the owner's skills at restoration, they are always in high demand. One day, about 10 years ago, the son rocks up in his latest BMW and walks up to the owner, a father and his teenage son. The rest of this conversation is paraphrased, as I was not a witness, but this was told to my family by the owners themselves. Crazy Pants' son says, "Hey guys, it's your lucky day. I want to buy your land. I will give you £15,000. Notice that he didn't ask if it was for sale, or offer to negotiate a fair price. And the owner says, no, sorry, the business is not for sale. Thanks for the interest though. I wasn't asking for your business. You can set up somewhere else. I want this land. It's just the right size to build another house on." Well, sorry, no, this is our livelihood. We can't just move. We would lose business while looking for someplace else, and besides, it used to be my father's garage, and it's next door to our home, so why would we want to sell it? So you can make money? Insert a random duh face here. But we make money working here, so sorry, but it's not for sale. The son then does what you would expect a grown man of 30, yes, 30, to do. He complained to his mother. His mother takes no time at all to walk back to the garage. "Why won't you sell your garage to my son? He wants to build a house here. Because this is our place of business and we don't want to sell. You shouldn't even be working here. It's dangerous. I can assure you, ma'am, everything is up to code, and we have every right to work here. Now please leave us alone." "What are you hiding in there? Is it drugs?" "What? No, we're fixing up an old bike." "I knew it. You are working here illegally. Sell your land to my son or I will contact the authorities." The owner laughed and told her to go ahead. She stormed off and they thought it was over. Just the nutty ravings of a mad granny, right? An hour later, sure enough, the police arrive. Apparently, an anonymous caller rang them to say that the owners had been dealing drugs out of the garage. It was obvious who had called them. Of course, all the neighbors had seen the police arrive. Our street is normally quiet and we are all nosy bastards, so when you see a blue flashing light, you step out and watch the show unfold. Entitled Mom took great glee in telling everyone stood around and watching the chaos, how the owners had been selling drugs to children, and how she wasn't the one who called them, but everyone knows what is going on, and thank goodness something is finally being done about it. Half the neighbors were shocked at this event, but a few of the longer-term residents were already giving her the side-eye like it was on special offer at Tesco or Walmart. She must have been feeling pretty smug with herself. Only there was a snag, just a little one. Because the tiny garage worked on rare and old cars, which can be expensive, the owners had CCTV. That was something Entitled Mom had not counted on. After the police had shown up, the owners knew who the culprit was, and had no issue with showing footage, complete with sound, showing Entitled Mom threatening to call the police if they didn't sell the land. With half the neighbors out watching the events unfold, Entitled Mom's face switched from smugness to fear as the police walked away from the garage and approached her instead. The officer then asked if they could step inside her home to discuss something she probably did not want her neighbors to hear. She received a warning regarding harassment and wasting police time. The owners of the garage were never bothered again, and the last remaining neighbors who didn't know how bad she was finally saw her for the witch she was. Sorry the ending wasn't epic, but that's just how it was. Harassed over a parking spot. My next door neighbor, who my friends and I called Crazy Pants, was a very nosy, very entitled woman who tried hard to tell everyone who lived in the same street what they could and couldn't do. Her adult children were equally spoiled. My neighbor on the other side of me, we will call Gina. Gina is a mother of 3 who works in the local supermarket. She is the sort of person who, if you tripped her up, she would apologize to your foot. One day, her husband John got a new job which came with the company car. Nothing special, it was covered in logos for the company, but it meant that Gina could use the family car whenever she needed to. Some of the houses where I live have driveways and some don't. Gina has a drive, but it only takes 1 car. As they were liable for the company car, that took up the space in the drive, and her car would be parked either in front of my house or Crazy Pants's, as neither of us had drives. It's a public road, so anyone can park anywhere as long as they don't block a drive. One day, Crazy Pants's daughter, who we'll call Entitled Daughter, bangs on Gina's door. Apparently, she was annoyed that Gina had been parking in front of her mother's house. That space, as she saw it, was for her when she visited, and because Gina was in the space, Entitled Daughter had to park in front of my house and walk the whole 5 feet to her mom's house. Oh, the humanity. This was when Gina made the following mistake. Gina says, "I am so sorry, but isn't OP's house right next door? I'm sure you don't have to walk far." Entitled Daughter responds, "How dare you? That is my parking spot. Why do you have 2 cars anyway? You are just a stupid checkout girl." It was at this point John overheard and demanded that Entitled Daughter leave. So Entitled Daughter does what a grown woman of 40 always does. She whines to her mother. That was when Crazy Pants went into overdrive. Over 6 months, whenever Gina and her family stepped out into their garden, Crazy Pants would come out and shout at the children for being too loud, or at Gina for wearing slutty clothes. Gina wears bikinis in the summer, which being in the UK lasts about 31 minutes. She would also turn up to the supermarket Gina worked at and hovered around giving her death stares. Social services, think CPS but they cover more than children, were called and told that Gina and John had been putting out cigarettes on the children. The RSPCA were called and told that Gina has been starving her cat. She didn't even have a pet at the time. Also, every time her car was parked in front of Crazy Pants's house, Crazy Pants would bang on her door screaming about her parking space. Poor Gina tried everything. She recorded the abuse and called the police and the council, but they were only willing to give a warning. Her work could not remove Crazy Pants as long as she wasn't doing anything, and she could not prove who called social services and the RSPCA. In an effort to help, as we were between the 2 neighbors, my dad, yep, I live with my dad because I'm his carer, decided to let our hedge grow to block Crazy Pants's view of Gina's garden so she could have peace. It worked for a while. Then one day, we get a knock on the door. Our house is council owned, so all necessary maintenance work is carried out by them. A man from the council was stood there and let us know that the new fence would be up by 4 p.m. Next thing we heard was the sound of a hedge trimmer. My dad stormed out and demanded to know what was happening. Apparently, we had called the council regarding the very slightly wind-damaged fence between our garden and Crazy Pants's, and agreed to have it replaced. We didn't call anyone. In order to put the new fence in, the hedge we had needed to be removed. There was nothing we could do. We made it clear no one had called anyone, but because the fence was damaged, they decided to continue, and there was nothing we could do. Lo and behold, the next day Crazy Pants was leaning over the fence and was back to shouting at the children. I would love to say that Crazy Pants got what she deserved, but Gina eventually cracked and sold her car. She then paid £600 for a new fence. After she got rid of the car, the harassment stopped as quickly as it started. Gina is fine now. She now has a management position and a new dog who likes to play with mine.